All right, what's up? What's going on, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Now, I did read an article on BoxingScene.com about Luis Ortiz. Ortiz basically said, listen, Joshua, if everything doesn't work out with the Miller fight, if the Miller fight does not happen, for whatever reason, I'm available. This is what Ortiz is saying. Now, I didn't really think nothing of it because I don't expect Anthony Joshua to fight Luis Ortiz. It's a fight that could happen, but I can see why Matchroom and Eddie Hearn and these guys want to make the fight with Miller. All right. I think most people think that Ortiz is the more dangerous fight. I think business-wise, it works better for Hearn and DAZN because Miller is already with those guys over there. All right. He's already with Matchroom. Okay. So it makes more money. It makes more sense to keep the fight in-house. You know, Miller's undefeated. Miller's a dangerous opponent. You know, a lot of unknowns there. You know, I don't think he's the best, and I don't think he's achieved as much as Luis Ortiz. You guys know I love Luis Ortiz, and I like Gerald Miller too, but Ortiz might be like my second favorite heavyweight outside of Anthony Joshua. All right, but to be realistic here, I personally think that Ortiz is a much more dangerous opponent for Joshua than Gerald Miller at this point, at this stage. All right. So I understand why the Miller fight is happening. These guys want to fight in New York, or they want to fight in the U.S., and they want to gain attention here from the fans here. They want exposure here. Anthony Joshua, as famous as he is worldwide, he's not that famous here in the States. He's just not. There's a lot of people that just don't know who he is like that, you know? And boxing is just not as popular here as it is over there in the UK. It's just not, all right? So I understand why they want to make the fight. My thing is this, and you know, I wasn't even going to say anything, but I follow, I subscribe to Boxing Ring IQ and Bruce Vane, who I love these channels. So I listen to their stuff, and they both were pretty much saying the same thing in their videos, basically saying that, listen, Ortiz, if Joshua calls you out, you should just be jumping right on it and saying something. Why stay quiet? This is basically what they were saying. You know, Joshua called you out weeks ago. Why are you just now saying something publicly about it? Now, this is how I feel. And this is where I disagree with both of them. I personally think that the call out thing is getting... People are actually using names and calling out names in order to just get some kind of buzz and exposure. Just send the offer. You don't need to just use Ortiz's name. You're not really serious about fighting Ortiz. You sent the offer to Dillian White. You sent the offer to Gerald Miller because you're serious about fighting them. Just saying, oh, well, we're willing to fight Dillian. We're willing to fight Miller. We're willing to fight Ortiz. You're willing to fight the best. That shit doesn't really fly with me anymore. You know, because when, you know, I've been on YouTube for a long time, and a lot of videos me and other uploaders have said that, why don't you call this fight out? You didn't call out. We used to make arguments based on the call outs. The call outs used to mean that you really want to fight the fighter. But it hasn't been that way recently. A lot of fighters is just using names in order to build hype up for the fight. A lot of these fighters are not serious about fighting the people that they're calling out. You know, that's just not the way it is. You know, so my whole argument here is just send the offer. If you send the offer to these other two fighters, then you send the offer to Ortiz too if you're really serious about taking it. Because I believe that Ortiz, out of Dillian White and Gerald Miller, those three, if you send an offer to those three fighters, including Ortiz, I'm sure Ortiz is willing to take the least amount of money to fight AJ. I'm sure Ortiz is willing to fight AJ out in London, out in New York, wherever. Ortiz hasn't struck me as a guy that is all about the money. I mean, he wants to get paid, of course, but he wants the opportunity to fight a champion. You know, he was serious when he was, when Dillian White recently was saying that he'll fight Ortiz, and he didn't fight Ortiz. He fought Derek Chisora again. So Ortiz is serious. He's serious. I mean, I believe he is. You know, I believe he's serious about fighting Anthony Joshua. And I know he has a fight schedule, but listen, there's plenty of guys that had fights that schedule that has pulled out of fights, whether it was because step aside money or whether it's because some fake injury they had just to get a better fight later. Okay? So I believe that if Ortiz really got some kind of, offer or contract sent to him where, listen, you want to fight AJ on this day, we can make it happen. Man, these guys will pay Christian Hammer that step aside money, and they will be getting in the ring with Anthony Joshua. So I'm with Ortiz on this one. I'm not, well, let me not say I'm with him. What I am saying is that my point of this video is that the call out, the name being called out there, it doesn't mean everything, especially with the way boxing have been lately. The call out, the names being used, these guys in the heavyweight division is perfect example. Names has been called out. These fighters have been flip-flopped in every single week, back and forth. Just the other day, Wilder is like, I don't need to fight Anthony Joshua. And then he's like, all right, well, if he wins and he's serious, then I'll fight him next. These guys flip-flop back and forth all the time, from the fighters to the promoters, whatever. Okay? So I'm not going to take their word just because they called out Ortiz's name. How serious are they about fighting Ortiz? That's just the way I see it. If there's some missing pieces here that I didn't bring up, you guys are more than welcome to bring it up in the comments or whatever. I just disagree. I just think that the call out and the names, I don't think that's enough anymore. Just send the offer. Send a realistic offer. I bet you if AJ sent the offer 85% to 15%, I bet you Ortiz would take that. He's not in a position to counter offer with much. I'm sure he'll take whatever he can get. But I understand why the Miller fight would make more business sense. Because with Ortiz, unfortunately with Ortiz, high risk, low reward. The reward is people will respect AJ more if he were to beat Ortiz than beating Miller. So the respect will be there, but I don't know if that's true, because what if he does beat Ortiz and people go and, especially the guys that support Wilder, they're going to say, well, Wilder already knocked him out, so who cares if Anthony Joshua knocks him out, But still, I see Miller, just from my experience and from what I've read in my comments and from the conversations I had with people, the Ortiz fight is the more lucrative fight than Gerald Miller. All right. So anyway, that's the way I look at it. You guys subscribe and leave comments, drop your comments and everything. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.